Alright, background on the beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Samuel Smith Old Brewery, and they are out of Tadcaster, North Yorkshire, England, over in the UK, and this is their Nut Brown Ale. So this is an English brown ale that comes in at 5% alcohol by volume, 30 IBUs at the time of review. I don't know exactly how old this bottle is, but it does have a best by date of November 14th of 2020. I believe that is 5. It also looks like a 3, but I'm pretty sure it's 5. Which means that we're about 8 months away from that date. So according to the brewery, we should be more than good to go. And I'd imagine this is given a 1-year best by date. So this was probably bottled on November 14th of 2024, making this one about 4 months old at the time of review. Now, I'm reviewing this one as a shelfie beer for the month of March 2025, and that's because that's what this beer is. That's what a lot of the Samuel Smith beers are here in the US. You can get them at a lot of different places across the US, and I haven't had this one in many years, so I thought I would revisit it. They have a little spiel on the back that we'll read at the end if I remember, but when it comes to brown ales, if you follow the channel, you know I'm not a huge brown ale guy. However, my preference is English over American brown ales within the style, because the English style has more of a balance, maybe even a little bit more malt leaning, where the American offerings are what we do here in America when it comes to craft beer, and that's hop the crap out of them. And I prefer brown ales to be a little bit more malty. So I've always enjoyed this one. I thought it was pretty good. And the name, Nut Brown Ale, it definitely has a nuttiness, or it has had a nuttiness in the past when I've had it. So, you know, I'm looking forward to this one. I've been revisiting a lot of these, imported beers from Europe, the UK, and I like a lot of them. And I don't know why I haven't reviewed so many of them over the years, but I'm an idiot. We're going to use the Dogfish Head glass. We'll give it a pour, and we'll go from there. So, yeah, it's definitely a brown ale, pouring out like a beautiful brown ale. Yeah, I think this vessel was the right one to choose. I love this Dogfish Head glass. This used to be like their, I forget what they called it, like their, I won't say flagship glass, but it was kind of like the glass that you would see all the time back in the early to mid 2010s, and I love it. Anyway, look at that beer. It looks absolutely beautiful. Let me get my stupid thumbprint out of the way. But that is a beautiful looking beer. It really is. It has like a reddish brown color, like you could say amber, but almost like a chestnut color, like a walnut. It has like a walnut husk kind of look to it. Has about a finger of a straight up tan colored head. You could call it khaki. Super creamy looking. You hold it up to the light. It does have a nice clarity. We'll see if I can do that with the light. Yeah, I mean, that you can see that reddish tinge as I put the light through it for sure. It has just a slightly darker look to the beer on camera than I see it in person, but it's ever so slight. So I think it looks absolutely fantastic, honestly. So anyway, let's get a nose. Oh, it smells beautiful. Lots of malt going on. Yeah, there is a nice nuttiness here. There's some like dried red and dark fruits, caramel and toffee, maybe even a slight kind of like molasses kind of feel. Has a nice, more toasty than roasty vibe. A little bit of brown bread. Oh man, it smells so good. So this is what I like. Like if I'm getting a brown ale, I like the malt character to be big. In the nose, there's like a nondescript kind of like earthiness. But for the most part, it's just very malt driven. Maybe even a slight like cocoa powder. Maybe a smidge of coffee. But yeah, very, very malt driven. It smells actually quite good and better than I remember, which seems to be a case with a lot of these classic beers that I don't revisit for, 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 years. Anyway, let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. Very nice. And again, that's coming from someone who is not enamored with the style. Never loved the style. For many years, I just tolerated the style. Probably a poor choice of words, but it's just not a style that it ever really did anything for me. But over the years, I've started to appreciate the brown ale style more, even the American ones a little bit more, especially if they don't go crazy with the hop character. I feel this is a style that doesn't need that. But again, American craft beer for many years, over the top with hops. Anyway, the body on this one is really, dare I say, lush. For 5%, it has a medium body. It's really nice. The mouthfeel itself is soft, smooth, and creamy. It has like a mild to moderate carbonation, but it's softer anticipated on the palate, smooth and creamy going down. You can see from the glass lacing that is definitely the awesome glass lacing, but that like the big globs of the glass lacing kind of, to me, indicate like the smoothness. And I know that probably has no correlation, but in my puny brain, it does. I don't know if you guys can hear, I just kind of turned sideways. Anyway, yeah, the body mouthfeel are really nice. The taste, the nose carried over, maybe not as, dare I say, bombastic, shout out to Paul over at Brew News, or like intense that the nose was indicating, but roasty toasted malt, there's caramel toffee, a little bit of dried fruit, both dark and like just dried fruits in general, just like a generic dried fruit. It has a nice like drying cocoa powder, a little bit of like a lightly roasted coffee. That brown bread is there, maybe even more of like a toasted biscuit. Really, really nice. Maybe even like a Scotia honey. That molasses I was talking about, yeah, I could see it. But that's like the first 3/4 of the palate is all the malty goodness. And then on the finish, I get this nice drying, slightly earthy hop character. Maybe even a touch of like a dirtiness, like a soil, like a wet soil kind of hop character. And it finishes pretty dry. This is firmly dry with a mild to moderate bitterness. Again, that's what this style is all about. It's not blowing your palate out with a bunch of crazy hop character like American brown ale could, but it has a nice drying, earthy kind of dryness on the back of the palate. A nice mild to moderate bitterness to kind of offset stuff. Offset the big, luscious, sweeter malt character. This does lean a little bit sweet, like 55-45 sweetness to dryness, maybe 60-40, but it's not cloying or anything. It has a little bit more of a sweetness. 5%, you can't tell. Yeah, it's a nice beer. Not gonna waffle on here like I typically do, because I'm sure a lot of you out there have had this one before. If you're in the States, you never did pick it up, I think you would really thoroughly enjoy it. Myself, yeah, I like this one quite a bit. I really do. Yeah, so Nut Brown Ale from Samuel Smith. I'm actually going to give this a higher grade than I thought. I'm going to give this a high 4 out of 5. We'll go 4.1 out of 5. Who would have thought that? A brown ale on the Beer Patrol getting a substantially higher score than any of us would imagine. Myself, really, I was going to say myself included, but yeah, in my head, I'm like, yeah, it should be all right or whatever. It's better than all right. It's pretty damn good. So they have a spiel here on the back. What Rita says, brewed at Samuel Smith Small. Well, they say that for everything. So I'm going to just skip that and go right to where it says Nut Brown, because I've read that on so many reviews over the years of their beers. It says, Nut Brown Ale is relatively dry. Yes. Is relatively dry with a rich reddish brown color, definitely, and inviting nutty flavor. Now on the taste, I didn't really say nuts too much, did I? It was definitely there in the nose. I would say on the palate, it's more of like a drying kind of nuttiness. It's like a roasted almond or something in that realm. But this is not as nutty as I remember it being. But again, it does have a lot of complexity to the malt character. So, Nut Brown Ale is appropriate, but for me, I didn't get a huge nuttiness. The nose is more an indication of the taste, but definitely there is some nuttiness here. And it says it's derived exclusively from a generous amount of roasted barley. So yeah, the toasty, roasty kind of quality. Samuel Smith has the richest, maltiest, and nuttiest of the brown ales from Michael Jackson, RIP. So yeah, anyway, really good beer. I thoroughly enjoy it. 4.1 out of 5. Price point availability. I would typically see this $11.99, $12.99 a 4-pack. That's fine for something imported. I think this is a 355 milliliter bottle. So this is a 12 fluid ounce bottle. For me, that's a good price point for something like this, especially given a 4.1 and availability. It's Samuel Smith's. Check your imported. Check the import section at your local beer store or grocery store, and you should see some of their offerings. You might not see this one exactly, but this is one of the more popular ones, especially if you're here in the U.S. If you're abroad, I have no idea, but I'm sure they get into a bunch of different countries, and yeah, it's just a damn good beer. So yeah, I'm really happy I picked this one up. I might dive into some more later in the year. I reviewed the Yorkshire Stingo recently, and that was absolutely delicious. Way better than I remember it, honestly. I was kind of losing my shit over that one. This one, also way better than I remember. My palate has changed immensely. If you've been watching the reviews over like the last 6 months to a year, you know that I'm starting to like West Coast IPAs and beers like this that I was like, oh, I'm not a huge fan of the style. Turns out, I guess I am at this point. So anyway, if you've had this one before, post in the comment section. 5% alcohol by volume. You can't taste it. I'm going to drink the rest of that one off camera in record time because I want to go back for another sip. It's really pulling me in. So if you haven't had this one in a long time or you've never had it, you owe it to yourself to check it out. Again, it's relatively cheap for what it is, and it's a pretty damn good beer. And if you like brown ale style, especially the English brown ale style, check it out. So I'm going to shut this one down. Appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.